Like there's a little.
Hello and welcome to the Monday, May 23rd, 2022 Hillsborough Township Board of Education meeting. In accordance with the state sunshine law of New Jersey, adequate notice of the meeting of the Hillsborough Township Board of Education was provided on May 19th to the Hillsborough Beacon and the Courier News. Can I take a roll call, please?
Mr. Gillette?
Here.
Ms. Jackson?
Here.
Mr. Kidd? Ms. Lanning Beater?
Here.
Ms. Nurse?
Here.
Mr. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Here.
Ms. Trujillo?
Here.
Mr. Marini?
Here. All right. We will now take a motion to move into executive session. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of the laws of 1975 provides that a public body may exclude the public from that portion of a meeting of which the public body discusses certain matters for which confidentiality is required as permitted in Section 7B of the Act. Resolved by the Board of Education of the Township of Hillsborough and the County of Somerset and the State of New Jersey as follows. The matters to be discussed are legal matters, professional services to conduct interviews with law firms, and interviews for superintendent search firms. To the matters discussed in executive session shall be disclosed to the public where the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Can I take a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're in executive session. Thank you. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome back to the Monday, May 23rd, 2022 Hillsborough Township Board of Education meeting. If we could take roll.
Mr. Gillette?
Here.
Ms. Jackson?
Here.
Mr. Kidd? Ms. Lanning Beater?
Here.
Ms. Nurse?
Here.
Mr. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Here.
Ms. Trujillo?
Here.
And Mr. Marini?
Here. We have a quorum. All right, please stand for the session. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, coming out of executive session, we do have a resolution to read. Whereas the Hillsborough Township Board of Education, here and referred to as the board, desires to secure the professional services of a consultant to provide an intensive search for the next superintendent of schools for the Hillsborough Township Public School District, here and referred to as the district. And whereas the board solicited quotations in accordance with the NJSBA 18A:18A-1 and has determined that the quotation submitted by Hazard Young, Attia and Associates, here and referred to as a consultant, is the most advantageous, price and other factors considered, not to exceed $30,000. Whereas the board and the consultant wish to enter into a written professional services contract to specifically describe the relationship and to serve as the basis for the search for the next superintendent of schools of the district. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby awards a contract to the consultant to provide an intensive search for the next superintendent of schools for the district in accordance with the professional services contract between the district and the consultant, a copy of which is attached hereto and made part of this resolution. And be it further resolved that the board president and the board secretary / school business administrator are authorized to execute the professional services contract and any and all other documents necessary to effectuate the terms of the contract and to take any other actions required under the public school contract law. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved. Second.
All right, we'll take roll.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Lanning Beater?
Yes.
Ms. Nurse?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo?
Yes.
And Mr. Marini?
Yes. It passes. All right. All right, moving on with the agenda. The correspondences are acknowledged as listed. Board President's report. I'll keep this really quick this week. We're happy to be able to appoint a search firm to help the superintendent search. We want to make it very clear that we're going to gather a lot of community feedback and involvement in this search, so all parties will be considered and involved. We'll have a great deal of communication on how that's going to proceed over the next couple of weeks and months. But we look forward to great involvement from the community as we move forward in the search for our next superintendent. Second to that, there has been a handful of communications in requesting information about fees collected for sports in the schools and how those funds are used and how the overage is leveraged once we use all those fees. I just want to make it very clear that when we collect fees for sports, that covers approximately 10% of the sport budget for the year. So there is no overage, there is no extra spend to place in different areas. It does go into the general fund because that's where the funds for that come out of. So we will be looking at sports fees in committee over the next couple of committee meetings to make sure that the requirement of involvement of pay for those sports is equitable and fair across the district, and just looking at the model to see if that still works moving forward, as there are certain sports that obviously cost a bit more than others. We want to make sure that that's fair for all of those involved, and continue to, with our budget, support all of the current sports that are in play. So that's it for my board president's report, and we can move forward. I will move forward here with committee reports, and I will move to Mr. Gillette.
You're going to do that. Thank you, Mr. President. The Operations Finance Committee met on May 18th. We had several items on the agenda. I'd like to tell you about all of them, if I may. As you know, we've had ongoing environmental monitoring testing at the Bloomingdale school site, where our buildings and grounds departments and other offices are. Prestige Environmental, which was our environmental consultant during most of that time when that initial testing went on, gave us a proposal for $22,270 to do the final course of testing at Bloomingdale, and we're recommending we do that. We had some change orders on the referendum. These mostly concerned the piping for unit ventilators at Sunnymead, also some piping at Triangle and Woodford. We're recommending that change orders be approved, and they will be. We are making a recommendation to change the way vehicle registration is done. Right now, I think we had sometimes employees paying for vehicle registration on their own, like credit cards or whatever, and then asking for reimbursement. That really shouldn't be. So we're going to authorize the district to provide checks for a vehicle registration when that comes up. You'll see on the I think you see on tonight's agenda, unless it got taken off at the last minute, a couple of policies: the maintenance and repair policy for first reading and the emergency and crisis situation policy for first reading. Those were pretty boilerplate, and we recommend those also. And finally, we received a $179,000 grant that was part of the COVID relief, I believe, or one aspect of it. We have a very dire need at Woodfern School with our septic system at Woodfern. We looked into it and asked if a portion of that could be used to install a completely new septic system, including a remediation, removal of the old system. This includes new piping and everything needs to be done new for Woodfern School, so that kids can be going to the bathroom there for another 50 years, hopefully. So we're going to use some of that $179,000 grant, actually the bulk of it, for a new septic system at Woodford. We also spent just a few minutes this time, but it's ongoing, discussing a later school start times for the high school. And that's all we did. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Gillette. Mr. Oliver?
Thank you, Mr. Marini. HR committee also met on May 18th. We had several personnel issues we discussed. We reviewed the compensation for educational assistants. We're looking into making a change there that's somewhat beneficial economically to the district. We did talk about again, seem to be resignations that we're getting fast and furious. So we are sitting with some of the leaders in the union to discuss some action plans that we could take to maybe remedy that. And that should be happening within the next couple of weeks, and we could report back on that at another time. And that's all we have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Oliver. Mr. Kidd is not here, so I'll cover his quick couple of items from the Education Committee. The couple items that he pointed out was a handful of new course proposals that were provided, as well as course title changes that came through. And last but not least, review policies and abolishment of policies that are on tonight's agenda for review. For the Governance Committee, there was a relatively short agenda. We got through quickly. One of the main items was due to the calendar changes that we made around different holidays, et cetera, for next year. We did have to update the meeting schedule for next year, and that has been included. And then there was one policy around law enforcement cooperation, which, while there was no objection to, we were asked for some additional information before routing for approval. So I believe Dr. Felcher has gathered that information. Next committee meeting, we will review that and then most likely recommend that policy for adoption. Then there was a handful of informational updates. And that concludes committee reports, unless there's any questions.
I have a question. So I have a question about policy 5460, which is high school graduation. I had sent an email to you and Dr. Feltry earlier. My question about this up for first reading is, what was the level of discussion? Because as I was trying to compare this policy with the version that was adopted back in July 2020, which actually, I think only Mr. Oliver, Mr. Gillette, and myself were on the board at that time. That policy was amended, help me out here, Mr. Gillette, it added a piece about the time, not the time, the venue of graduation, something like that.
It added a notification requirement for the superintendent to notify the board in January of that graduation year, the location and date and location of graduation, essentially.
Right, so, thank you, Mr. Gillette. So when I reviewed the updated policy for first reading, I didn't find it, and I couldn't compare the two policies because they look quite substantially different. So my question is, in education, was that discussed? And if not, it was not. If not, if we could table that policy for further discussion at the next education committee meeting so that it can be reviewed.
Yes.
Yeah, I have to figure out which one that is.
All right, we will remove that from the action agenda for this week.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marini.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. All right, so with committee reports completed, we will move forward with comments from the board/public. We very much welcome input from the public. During board meetings, there'll be 2 30-minute periods of time that the meeting will be open for public comment, where members of the public are invited to comment, which they may do if they're attending in person. During the first public comment period, members of the public may comment about items that are listed on tonight's agenda before the board votes. During the second public comment period, members of the public may comment on any school or school district issue that a member of the public feels may be of concern to the residents of the school district as per bylaw 0167. Before you state your comment, you will be asked to provide your name and address. There's a 3-minute limit on public comment. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but rather are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board believes that there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent will address that comment. There may be times when a member of the public makes a comment or asks a question about personnel or hiring decisions. Kindly note that the Open Public Meetings Act and the privacy rights of public employees encompassed therein do not permit the board to discuss personnel issues in public session. And if you're going to speak to this first piece, please mention the agenda item that you would like to speak to. Thank you.
Good evening, Amy Salinger, teacher at Auten Road and ATA treasurer. I'm here to comment on action item 12.9, motion to approve course title changes. As a teacher at Addis, I'm unfamiliar with any current course titles, SE Reading or SE Math or any of the other SE classes as shown under the current course title side of the table. Is it possibly referring to special ed classes? I also do not see any mention of ASI classes under the current or proposed sections of the table. I understand there have been discussions about eliminating ASI altogether at ARIS for an RTI model, but I'm not sure I see this indicated in the table. While I'm sure the intent is well-meaning, I'm genuinely confused by what these changes really are and what they mean as presented on the agenda. The elimination of advanced level courses at ARIS was not universally well received, and I am concerned about the ramifications of these new proposed changes. I believe some of the current ASI staff have been involved in some of the discussions, but at this point, the classroom teachers have not been given any official details of what is to come for next school year. Seeing this on tonight's agenda brought some concern to many of my colleagues, and any insight would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Henry Goodhue, Hillsborough Education Association. There are 2, by extension 3 items on the action agenda I would like to just touch upon quickly. The first one is the first readings of policy 3161 and 4161, which are examination for cause. In general, these are just updates to follow with NJAC 6A and the provision that the district should be providing written explanations for their actions, which to the district's credit, they largely have done. My question, though, is why the board chose to not continue the language that exists in the current policy that states an employee who requests a hearing before the board may be represented by counsel and may present witnesses. Any such hearing will be an executive session, and the employee shall be notified in writing of its outcome. Again, that's largely perfunctory, and legally the employee is allowed to have a representative accompany them, but I feel striking that language from the policy raises needless questions and concern among staff. So I would respectfully ask that that language be incorporated into the new policy. The second thing I would like to touch upon is item 11.11, which is the approval of the Strong Plus model. It's no secret, many times we've come up here to discuss the shortcomings of that model, especially the shortcomings of the implementation of that model within the district. Our district has taken probably the most stringent interpretation of it and has placed needless demands upon staff member time that takes them away from the students and takes them away from what they need to do, whether that's pointless surveys, extraneous things in doc logs. There's many things within the model and under Achieve NJ and Teach NJ that the district has discretion on, but we go to the nth degree with it, and it harms staff and undermines their time and their energy with the students. So I would ask, if we are going to approve that model, that the board commit to reevaluating how it's done or ask the administration to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, good evening. Gabby Lockwoods, I lost the number. It's the Lifelines curriculum. 1211, 1212? 1211, thank you. So I just wanted to take a moment and thank the board for including the Lifelines curriculum in the curriculum for next year. The importance of suicide prevention is obviously tremendously important, and the Lifelines curriculum being extended to 5th and 6th graders is excellent and shows that young children as young as maybe 9 or 10 years old can deal with maybe what we consider to be some more mature and adult concepts in successful ways. And I'm glad to see that the board recognizes the value in that in adopting this curriculum, because it's really quite terrible when kids decide to unalive themselves. So thank you for doing that, and I hope that the same level of introspection that went into this decision is applied to other curriculum decisions in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Leisha Gaber-Bayless, live in Hillsborough. This is for 1212, motion to approve family math and family science sessions in K through 4, or in some cases, I guess, just 1 and 2. I just wanted to say that this sounds wonderful, and I would encourage if all the elementary schools would be able to do something like this. I understand that it might be difficult to find teachers who are in the schools who are interested, but perhaps we could work with the teachers who are doing this, and they could give a presentation, or they could even possibly come to the other schools and give a and run it for them, and the other teachers can see how it goes. And we could just have more of this all throughout the district. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there any other comment from the public here? Okay, seeing none, I can close public comment here if there's board comments on the agenda, action items. Ms. Nurse?
Yeah, I was wondering if we could get, is it possible right now to get some insight into the question involving 12.9 and the names of the courses and where ASI fits into that?
A little bit, I'll be honest. 12.9, those course title changes are this district document sheet that I still don't understand why it's there, but it's all the curriculum that is approved in a list. And we're no longer allowed to identify SE as special ed. That should have been eliminated several years ago, according to code. And, you know, it's taken this long to catch up with that. With regards to the ASI classes and right to know at Otten Road, that's being handled by Dr. Jenkins, and I've not gotten an update with any of that. So I'll have to report back on that at another time.
Great, thank you.
So can I clarify on anything else?
So
Hi. Question on 11.9, school district curricula. Is this a blanket approval of all the curricula for the grades or?
And this is a document, and I've asked this question myself. I've not gotten an answer except for it's required by the state for us to do. It's a list of, it's a misnomer in terms of curricula. It's a list of all the courses or programming that we offer.
So it's just the courses and not the content, essentially?
That is my understanding, yes, because the content has already been approved in the past, you know, in the 5-year cycle.
So it comes up for regular approval every 5 years, you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
When's the next approval cycle?
I send it to Jean, I can send it to everybody. Every course comes up at a different cycle. So this year, science was implemented. No, am I wrong on that?
I don't know.
I know this summer we're writing health and PE and social studies. So those are what is up in the 5-year cycle. And then every once in a while, a new course will be added, or we'll miss a mandate or something like that, and we have to tweak. But it's social studies and health and PE right now.
Thank you.
Mr. Gillette?
Yeah, so I think I sort of had the same question in a maybe a different way, that, and this might address maybe what Ms. Jackson was thinking, that because some of the courses have not, a curriculum has not been written yet or decided upon yet, our approval tonight of all these does not mean that because it's for everything for next school year, but it's not quite for everything for next school year because we haven't gotten the ones that we're still changing for this next school year. Is that correct?
Yeah, my understanding is this is the board approving that we are going to be offering all the things that the state requires us to offer.
That's the way I've
Yeah.
always understood it every year. But I don't, yeah. There's some different types of material this year that you're going to be working on.
Correct.
So that's why it's come to the forefront of a lot of people who have been thinking about it.
Yes.
And I think public would like to know that the board is still going to, you're still going to present to the board or committees.
Yes.
The curriculum that's going to be changing for revision
Correct.
that you can work on this summer. Okay.
Yes, both curricula are going to be rewritten this summer. Health and PE is slated to be done at the end of June. And social studies, I believe, is the first week in August that it'll be written.
I have
So,
one other. So on, since we're doing the first part, on 11.11, strong plus model, I agree with Mr. Goodhue, and I think my position has been pretty clear over the years. I don't like anything that extra that teachers have to do that's not directly teaching with kids. So anything, I want the least restrictive environment for teachers to do their thing. And if they have a lot of obligations, if this seems like, it seems like this is the model with the most obligation, or that we're interpreting it, giving it the most teacher obligations, and I don't like that. So, I mean, I'm only one person, but if in the future, I'd be open to, you'll have my support, administration, if you want to switch to something less restrictive for teachers. Thank you.
well, I'll have to look into what can be minimized. I'll have a conversation with Mr. Callahan about what is required versus what is additional. And I do want to speak to the policies 3161 and 4161, the examination for cause. And the reason the language was removed is because it's inherent in the code. And forgive me, Mr. Goodhue, I wrote it down on the policy and it's on my desk, but the actual language that was eliminated in the policy is actually the language that's in the code. And or the statute that's listed in the policy, and since statute always supersedes policy, it's already there. So,
Okay. Are we looking to table 1111 for another meeting, or do we need to approve that now? Strong plus.
it's up to you guys.
I would, so I would say that we should adopt it tonight and then refer it to committee. I mean, I think that if we don't have it don't we need this like to move forward?
I guess that's the question.
I mean, I would hate to change something on the fly of the dais without allowing administration the time to do some research and evaluate.
Which one is this?
This is 11.11, the strong plus model.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No,
For
no, I think we have to
evaluation.
adopt it.
And which committee? I would assume education? Or is that, I don't know.
I think it's HR.
Oh, it's HR?
Strong
Okay.
plus is HR.
That's you.
Yeah, because
that's
it's
you.
Yeah, no, it is me. I'm looking
teachers
at Michael.
doing their
Okay.
evaluation model.
Okay, so we can approve, we can leave it on the agenda and then reassess the next meeting and make changes if necessary?
Yes.
Or is there anything between now and then that would, I don't want to put anything in play that is going to set things in motion that we can't turn back though?
Right.
Right, so moving forward with adopting as planned, and then in the June committee, or as soon as possible, have the committee evaluate. Does that sound?
We can do that.
Well, I'm not sure why we would vote instead of giving the opportunity. It's not holding up anything, correct?
Well, that's the
To
question.
table this?
I think we're not
This is-
sure.
This is for next year, for the
It's to begin
2020,
July
2023
1st.
school year.
It's
So
adopted for
we
July 1st.
need a system in place. I'm not sure that Mr. Goodhue is suggesting that we go to a search for a whole other model and put the teachers through that kind of a change. I think what he wants us to do is evaluate this model and the components that we actually use in the model to make it less daunting and burdensome for the teachers. So,
Because this model has been used for several years, correct?
yes, and yes, to redo the whole evaluation system, I don't think is the goal. I think it's streamlining what we ask of the teachers to what is necessary for effective feedback, on both sides and not additional work,
I
But-
appreciate the clarifying conversation.
I'm getting a thumbs up, so that's,
We have to adopt it. All right,
so,
okay,
yeah, we need an evaluation model. We don't have a choice of that.
fantastic, awesome.
I thought it was something new that was being added.
No,
to it,
it's
but
not something
just
new that's being
the-
added. Right.
The way it has progressed over the past years that it's being brought up now, or just the way it has been and we need some relief? Okay. Thank you.
So let me just be clear on that then. So can we modify 1111 to say we're going to approve it, but we will revisit this in HR to modify it? We just need to
We just
approve
will
it as
approve
is.
it and then we
Okay.
will add it to the agenda.
All right.
It's not the model, I think, that's in contention. It's the implementation.
Okay.
Which may more lie on the shoulders of the admin working with HEA.
All right, so let's go to this. Great feisty meeting today. It's fantastic.
So let's go to.
All right, so we will then move on to the approval of minutes. We have motion to approve executive session minutes for April 4th, 2022, 10.2, motion to approve public minutes, April 4th, 2022, 10.3, motion to approve executive session minutes, April 25th, 2022, 10.4, motion to approve public minutes, April 25th, 2022. Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain on the 25th.
Okay.
I
Jerry.
I need to abstain on the
Greg abstains on the April 25th.
Okay. All right. All right, so we have the mid-year organization meeting agenda as follows. 11.1 designate, it's 11.1 through 11.18. 11.1 designation of signatories, 11.2 designation of official newspapers, 11.3 designation of depositories for school funds, 11.4 school physicians, 11.5 insurance broker of record, 11.6 school warrants, 11.7 board policies, 11.8 job descriptions, 11.9 school district curricula, 11.10 field trip destinations, 11.11 strong plus model for evaluations, 11.12 NJSIAA Skyline Conference, 11.13 affirmative action officer Title IX coordinator, 11.14 section 504 officer, 11.15 liaison for homeless students, 11.16 board secretary, 11.17 attendance officer, and 11.18 designation of public agency compliance officer, PACO. Should I get a motion in a second?
And
So
Mr. President, can we separate
Let's do it.
11.3?
Let's take a motion in a second first, then we can
Okay.
take action.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All right, now, Mr. Oliver.
Can we eliminate 11.3 and vote on that separately, please?
11.3 designation of depositories for school funds. Yes. All right. Any other comments from the board before we move into?
I have a question. Mr. Oliver, is there something that gives you pause or any thoughts about that?
I'm an officer of one of the banks, so it needs to be separated out.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you. So we will take a roll on all but 11.3.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Lanning Beater,
Yes.
Ms. Nurse,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo,
Yes.
and Mr. Marino.
Yes, motion passes. Now we'll move on to 11.3 designation of depositories for school funds.
So moved.
Second.
All right. And we'll take roll.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Lanning Beater,
Yes.
Ms. Nurse,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Abstain?
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo,
Yes.
and Mr. Marino.
Yes, so motion passes. All right, now we'll move on to the superintendent's action agenda.
The acting superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the education agenda as follows: 12.1 through 12.16, removing/tabling policy 5460. 12.1, motion to approve professional travel-related expenses. Motion to affirm the superintendent's harassment, intimidation, and bullying HIB determination for the attached cases. Motion to approve staff for ELL summer program. Motion to approve motion to approve summer school staff for 2022, and that's with the ESSER funds. Motion to approve staff to attend UME and the PLC summer 2022. Happy to bring that back. Motion to approve staff to administer the measure of developing English language or model proficiency assessments during the summer months. Motion to approve summer credit advancement program staff. Motion to approve submission and acceptance of Schools Development Authority SDA grant. Motion to approve title changes, course title changes, I apologize. Motion to approve new courses. Motion to approve Empower Somerset Lifelines curriculum. Motion to approve family math, family science sessions. Motion to approve Quest Connect Ed 2022 Summer Institute participants. Motion to approve an overnight trip. They won a competition. Motion to abolish policy And motion to approve policies and regulation for first reading, all except for policy 5460.
All right, can I get a motion in a second?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion by the board? Seeing none, we'll move to roll.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Lanning Beater,
Yes.
Ms. Nurse,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Hale,
Yes.
and Mr. Marini.
Yes, motion passes.
All right, the acting superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the Human Resources Agenda 13.1 through 13.21 as follows. Motion to approve resolutions. Motion to approve sidebar agreement. Motion to approve retirements and resignations. Motion to approve contract change for 2022 to 2023. Motion to approve transfer, change, and assignment. Motion to approve revised leaves of absence. Motion to approve revised salaries of non-tenured certificated staff 2022 to 2023. Motion to approve revised appointments for 2022, 2023. Motion to approve leave of absence. Motion to approve appointments for the 2021, 2022 school year. Motion to approve appointments for the 2022, 2023 school year. Motion to approve renewal of tenured certificated staff for 2022, 2023. Motion to approve renewal of HEA office personnel for 2022, 2023. Motion to approve renewal of clerical assistants and parking lot attendant for 2022, 2023. Motion to approve the renewal of lunch aides for 2022, 2023. Motion to approve the renewal of instructional assistants for 2022, 2023. Motion to approve sixth period coverage. Motion to approve extra coverage. Motion to pre-approve extra coverage. Motion to approve extra coverage. Motion to approve summer enrichment program for 2022. And motion to approve policies for first reading.
All right, we will take a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion by the board?
I just have a question. The approval of the HEA office personnel, can you just clarify HEA in that sense? That's not from the Education Association, correct?
Yes, it's all the clerical assistants who are in the union, because we have
Oh,
some
okay.
who are not.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
1321, could we look at that and Mr. Goodhue's comments to how the verbiage was on that before we take this in for second reading? Can we revisit that and just get some feedback from Mr. Goodhue to
Absolutely.
see that his concerns are met?
Yep.
Okay, so you're suggesting removal of that from the,
No, he's
No, I'm just saying
suggesting
it's before we go for
Second
second
reading?
reading.
Okay, all right.
before we go to
approve it
second
final.
reading.
thank you.
We'll
Thank
take
you
a
for
look at it.
clarification. Any other comments from the board? All right, so we'll then take roll.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Lanning Beater,
Yes.
Ms. Nurse,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Hale,
Yes.
and Mr. Marini.
Yes, motion passes.
Okay. The acting superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the operations agenda as follows, 14.1 through 14.11. Motion to approve monthly bills. Motion to approve financial statement, or monthly financial statement. Motion to approve financial status. Motion to approve line item transfers. Motion to award professional services for the 2022-2023 school year. Motion to award waste disposal contract for the 2022-2023 school year. Motion to approve resolution for participation in coordinated transportation for the 2022-2023 school year. Motion to approve resolution for New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission payments. Motion to approve policies and regulation for first reading. Motion to accept donation. And motion to approve change order with AMCO.
All right, can I get a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion by the board on this?
Yes, could we just go back to 14.9, because the version that I had a placeholder, if we could just see what policies. Oh, right, so those are the ones we discussed in operations. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Hill, you're good?
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll take roll.
Mr. Gillette,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Lanning Beater,
Yes.
Ms. Nurse,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Hio,
Yes.
and Mr. Marini.
Yes, motion passes. All right, we'll now move forward with the second comment from the public and board. We very much welcome the input from the public. During board meetings, there will be 2 30-minute periods of time that the meeting will be open for public comment. The members of the public are invited to comment, which they may do if they are attending in person. During the first public comment period, members of the public may comment about items that are listed on tonight's today's agenda before the board votes. During the second public comment period, members of the public may comment on any school or school district issue that a member of the public feels may be of concern to the residents of the school district as per bylaw 0167. Before you state your comment, you'll be asked to provide your name and address. There's a 3-minute limit on public comment. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but rather are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board believes that there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board, president, or superintendent will address the comment. There may be times when a member of the public makes a comment or asks a question about personnel or hiring decisions. Kindly note that the Open Public Meetings Act, the privacy rights of the public employees encompassed therein, do not permit the board to discuss personnel issues in public session.
Jane Stats, 101 Devonshire Court, Hillsborough. I'm following up on my emails about the creation of an exit survey prompted by the alarming number of staff who are retiring and resigning. It was first suggested 2 years ago when the trend was first observed, and several times since then, including Mr. Oliver mentioning it, I believe at the January 3rd board meeting, the creation of an ad hoc committee to work on a survey regarding the, quote, to stop the bleeding and stop losing people within the district through retirement or when moving on to better positions. Earlier, Mr. Oliver stated that that leadership will be working on addressing the issue of the many resignations. So I assume that the exit survey will not be created. But I do think it's good to look to primary sources of this situation. So I encourage each board member to refer to the results of a survey that was sent out to the staff in March 2021. You should be able to find those results in an attachment on the agenda or the minutes of the September 2021 Communications Committee meeting. Be sure to read the comments as well. And that survey, again, that would be a primary source. The results of the survey may explain why so many staff members are resigning. And please don't dismiss the results. Use that feedback to make real change. Regarding what board members themselves can do to stem the departure of many staff members and to improve the morale of the remaining staff, consult the Code of Ethics for board members, which states that, quote, I will support and protect school personnel and proper performance of their duties, unquote. I assume that this is appropriate for administration to follow too. So to that end, please support staff as they follow procedures that have been created and approved by administration and the board. And I encourage board members not to publicly insult or ridicule staff and make baseless accusations. And regarding the superintendent search, I assume you will also be seeking input from the staff. Furthermore, collaboration between administrators and teachers is ideal when making decisions affecting our students. Teachers have expertise required through not only their undergraduate and graduate education, but expertise that is rooted in reality and current, direct, face-to-face experience with students. As Dr. Lawrence Feinsod, the outgoing executive director of the New Jersey School Board Association, has said, quote, the best decisions are always made by those closest to kids. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening. Good evening. Henry Goodhue, Hillsborough Education Association. First and foremost, I do want to thank the board, particularly Mr. Gillette, for having the conversation about the strong model. And for the board's reference, some of the things that we do that aren't statutorily required are things like a doc log, surveys, very time-consuming things that are not used in surrounding districts and don't truly reflect the excellence of our members in the classroom. And, with the excellence of those members, I appreciate that the HR committee is recognizing where we're at, that we're looking at another list of resignations that is longer than any other ones that we've previously seen. And I appreciate that steps are being taken to address that. I don't want to not seem appreciative of that, because I am. And the tone from upper administration and from the board has changed, and that is notable. But the reality is that there are remnants of previous interactions, previous philosophical approaches to staff that are still pervasive outside of this room and are still impacting our members and their decision as to whether or not they stay. So just as a matter of reference, in the last 48 hours, I have had no less than 5 members contact me about resigning. They are not on this agenda. I fear that many of them, if not all of them, will be soon. But they are 5 people who are incredibly dedicated, incredibly caring, and are absolutely critical to our schools. And they're thinking about leaving. And the reason they're thinking about leaving was the common theme that I heard from them, where they said to me quotes like, "They're stealing something from me I love, but I just can't anymore." That hurts. For people who don't really get paid enough, whose drive is to be there for the kids and to have that educational experience where they're imparting knowledge upon the kids, and to feel like that's being stolen from them, and that they feel like because of a toxic culture, they need to make a decision as to whether or not they walk away because it's hurting them and it's hurting their family. But that is 5 people in 48 hours. That's what I did with my Sunday, was I tried to talk to people and get them to stay. And I don't feel like that's my role. And I feel like we need to take proactive steps soon. I know that Dr. Feltry and I had a survey that was referenced by a previous speaker. I think we should revive that survey and get it out as soon as possible so that we have actionable data, because the other survey hasn't come yet. And that's not because of the board. That's not because of us. But if we have something that works, we need to use it, and we need to use it now, because these people are hurting and they are leaving. The other things we have to consider is whether or not we're doing things like using a strong model that dissuades them from wanting to stay. Are we squeezing the joy of teaching out of these people and taking them away from the students so they don't get that altruistic feedback, that altruistic reinforcement, and now they're choosing to leave? And I know my time is up, but we're talking about the strong model. So I would just say our teachers are held to the level of being effective or highly effective. So I would ask you to look at the things that are going on right now, the culture that our members are working in, and evaluate whether or not that is effective or highly effective. And as we look at our non-tenured members, the board may not be aware of this, but the term that's used is enthusiastically recommend. Is someone enthusiastically recommended to return next year? I will ask you, are the people who are creating this culture enthusiastically recommended? Do you enthusiastically recommend what they are doing to our members, to your employees, and to our students? And if the answer is no, I urge you to take action.
Thank you for your comment.
My name is Tiffany Neal at 6 Cedar Hill Terrace. I am here tonight to advocate for healthy school hours for Hillsborough students starting in the fall of 2023. As you know, extensive research shows that starting both middle and high school at 8:30 a.m. or later improves mental health, physical health, and academic achievement among teenagers. By starting Hillsborough High School before 8:30, we are preventing teens from getting the 8 to 10 hours of sleep they need to be healthy, happy, and successful. I know you have heard from me on this topic many times. I am not the only concerned parent who wants to see our school start times shift later. In fact, several parents have approached me in public to express their support and gratitude for advocating for this important issue. Tonight, I am delivering a petition that urges you to adopt healthy school hours with 171 signatures. I trust that all of you understand by now why this change is important. It's time to move on to the how of implementation. The great news is that there are a variety of solutions that work for school districts looking to make the change. Every district is different, and we can find the solution that works best for Hillsborough. You may not know that the New Jersey chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics has a statewide task force on adolescent sleep and school start times. This task force is led by Dr. Bert Mandelbaum, our very own Hillsborough school physician. He is a great resource for the board and superintendent as you work through the different aspects of implementing healthy school hours. I know that change is hard, but it's worth it. We have waited too long to do what's right for Hillsborough students. To be clear, the status quo is hurting our kids every day. It's time to take action so that our students can start reaping the many benefits of healthy school hours in the fall of 2023. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening. My name is Phil Gans. I live at 10 Gillette Court. I have two grandchildren in our district's lower grade elementary schools. Last week, I attended a luncheon where the guest speaker was the president of the New Jersey Education Association, Mr. Sean Spiller, who obviously works closely with the State Department of Education as well as Governor Murphy. He was asked several questions related to the upcoming addition of gender identity into the curriculum. It was noted that the original intended audience for this curriculum was for students grades 9 through 12, but was later modified to include middle and elementary students as well. Mr. Spiller indicated that the state guidelines are very general and flexible, his words, and that the individual districts have much latitude in deciding how the guidelines are to be implemented. I would ask the administration and the board members to comment on the local view of that level of flexibility they in fact possess. Mr. Spiller was asked, since the school day is not being lengthened, what subject may have classroom time reduced to allow the additional topic? He indicated that guidelines do not call for an additional subject to be added, but rather discussions of gender identity would be woven into existing lessons when deemed appropriate. He also spoke about parents' ability to opt out of lessons they deemed inappropriate for their child, especially at the elementary level, as parents will have access to the curriculum summaries. He suggested those students may be offered to join a study hall or other such accommodation. He was asked if students at the elementary level do not have a study hall where they can go if the parents have opted out. And secondly, if gender identity is simply woven into existing lessons, how will those elementary students be shielded from those lessons? Mr. Spiller's answers, that's a great question that the individual districts will need to answer. I am here tonight to ask the administration and the board members to answer that question. In summary, I have two general questions for you. And considering this evening you have an opportunity to address those two issues. One, what is the administration's view of the level of flexibility the state guidelines provide to the district, as Mr. Spiller characterized as very general and flexible? And two, from a practical and logistical standpoint, how will elementary students who have opted out of these lessons be segregated and not ostracized? And additionally, what measures are being taken to ensure they are not missing other portions of discussion that have had gender identity woven in? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, Amy Salinger, Ottenberg teacher, HH Treasurer. I wanted to piggyback off of what Mr. Goodhue had said, because as a teacher here at Aris, I have daily discussions on the added stresses that the recent years of the pandemic have had on everybody, not just the teachers, but all of the staff, all of the students. So in addition to the ideas about the STRONG model that he brought up, there's just the daily challenges of teaching to students in this post, but also current pandemic world, because, you know, depending who you ask, we're past it, but we're also very much in it. So I just wanted to, as an additional thought to that, to add that the support given to our members to meet these daily challenges during this time really has an effect of how we end our day. So that's an area where I think warrants some looking at. We do deserve better support to help us meet these daily challenges. It's very, very stressful. We have there's a lot of stress in this building, so I'm sure if it's in this building, it's in a lot of the other buildings. So thinking about the support that can be given to us to do our jobs in the most effective way is something that would that would help everybody, and I think have a positive effect. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, Gabby Lockwitz. Mr. Gantz, you know I'm right here, right? And I can hear every single thing you're saying, right? You know that, right? Okay, cool. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page on that. So since it's come up, the 2020 revision of the 7th and 8th grade curriculum, which I would imagine seated board members would know how this works before they come to the meeting, so maybe that'll be resolved in the future. But at any rate, it says right here in this that gender identity is discussed already in our curriculum, okay? And you all have had emails from me since January what? Telling you that this was coming, that it was going to be masks, and it was going to be CRT, which John was happily to oblige, and now it's gender, just in time for the GOP primary on June 7th. Just like every source predicted. So don't tell me that you don't know what's happening here. Don't tell me that you're not here with some sort of little agenda and preconceived notions. Okay? Cut it. Mr. Rue, no one had any idea what your views were. And as Mr. Gillette was very correct to point out last week, you were not a public person at the time that you were being interviewed. And I'm glad you pointed that out, Mr. Gillette, because once someone is on the Board of Education, they are a public person, and they stay a public person related to their work on the Board of Education. So, Mr. Rue, I'm sure you won't mind, since this was public until recently, if I share with the community what exactly it is that you feel about these topics. So, for example, on August 10th, Mr. Rue shared, kids nowadays, shut up, Mom. Mom shuts up. Me, back in the day. Shut up, Mom. Me. Well, where am I? Doctor, the ER. It's taken us 6 hours to remove this shoe from your ass. Generation X, 1965 to 1985. The last real great generation before all you sissies were born, as a father is giving a toddler beer. And of course, the pertinent question for Mr. Gans and myself. I remember when there were two genders, cars ran on gas, folks were proud of America, kids knew the pledge, and folks weren't such little bitches. I miss them days. So yeah, it is a good thing that there was no public comment, because that was all public. So, Mr. Rue, that's your record, just like Mr. Oliver's record, just like Mr. Gillette's record, and now your record, and I will hold you to task on it. And Mr. Gans, I really suggest that you take a moment, and instead of just coming up here and parroting whatever nonsense you've heard from the media, you actually take a minute and talk to me and listen to what I've told these people, which is I knew this at 7 years old in 1985. I'm not making this up. You really think I would pick this? That this is the choice that anyone makes to come here and be ridiculed by you and by these people? Give me a break.
You need to address the board if you're making comment. Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment and open up to the board for any comments they would like to make. Mr. Gillette?
Yes, so I'd like to just address generally at least one of the subjects that Mr. Gans brought up, and that is the ongoing question of what the board's role in curriculum, what the board role the board plays in curriculum. I know Ms. Trujillo recently attended a training, I guess, on the board's role in
Somerset
curriculum.
County School Boards Association and our field services rep, Gwen Thornton, talked about the board's role in curriculum.
Right. So did any topic related to this come up, and what the elected board members what their role would be in a?
Well, I think what Ms. Thornton had shared is that the board should ask questions about how the curriculum is, to be implemented. And I know that our board has not had public presentations at our board meetings, but that was one of the things that she recommended, or that other districts do have, is that if there are any changes in the curriculum, that is reviewed at a public board meeting.
All right, so I say that because for better or worse, the board receives their guidance on how they, how they perform their duties from the New Jersey School Boards Association generally, and also from our attorney. I think that's who we take our guidance from. And I think there's a lot of, generally across the state, there's a lot of leeway in how the new curriculum is going to be delivered. I read that like East Hanover School District, for instance, is going to have the entire new health curriculum on the very last day of school for all the grades that require it. I don't know if you read that. That was well reported. I think that's kind of extreme, but they've already reported that was from the superintendent. Reported that that's how they were going to do it. So that's, I don't think, I can't imagine district, that seems like a stunt to me. I can't imagine our district doing something like that, but I think it points up generally in the state that there seems to be a lot of leeway. I just don't know how much, that came from their superintendent. I don't know how much the board, and what say the board has and something like that. And to be fair to our administration, we haven't seen it yet, and we don't know how they're going to implement it. So I don't think we can answer the second question about how the opt-out will work, and I don't think we can answer any of those questions yet, unfortunately. But it's in my mind. Thank you.
May I ask for a clarification?
Sure.
From Mr. Gans, I believe he went to some sort of forum for the source of your information.
It was a retirement dinner for Wayne Education Association.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
It was a retirement dinner for teachers from the Wayne Education Association.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comment from the board? Ms. Nurse?
On a positive note, I just would like to say that I'm very happy to see that some of the extra funds were used for the summer program. I know that I've asked for that and about that for a long time, so I was very happy to be able to approve that. Also, I know, I'm not sure if the public has seen it, but I just feel like the past few meetings, and especially this meeting, have been very refreshing for me. Starting here and feeling what I was allowed to ask, what I was allowed to say, conversational versus just saying yes or no, has changed. And I appreciate, especially Dr. Feltry. I know that sometimes we might put you on the spot, and I hope that the public knows that when we sit up here as a board and ask questions, it's not to put anybody on the spot, but to have open dialogue, which I've always felt was very important to have at the table as opposed to side conversations. So I really, as a whole board, love the direction that we are going in and being able to make it more about understanding everybody's thoughts and getting clarification when we can for the public. So I appreciate the openness, and I hope that continues to help drive us forward. Mr. Gant, I don't see anything that you said as offensive, and I appreciate your thoughts and comments. And just like anything else that may or may not be controversial, we have to take into account all parties and all thought processes. So I appreciate the way that you delivered a message in terms of asking questions for what's happening. It happened to be that I was able to talk just for 2 minutes with Dr. Feltry and Mr. Marini, talking about preparing to how to address the public with the new curriculum. And like everything else, it takes time to roll out new things. And so we see a lot on Facebook from both sides. But really the truth is somewhere in the middle in terms of what the state expects, in terms of how we are doing it in a specific district. And I'm saying this not only as a board member, but as an educator myself in a neighboring district, that we need people as stakeholders to talk about how that's going to transform into our district. Unfortunately, we don't have all the answers now because most of that work is done in the summer. But I think that we're going to at least the board will encourage to have comments and keep everybody informed as we progress through this. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nurse. Any additional comments? Mr. Oliver?
So, Ms. Nursen, thank you, because, you know, we get pretty heated in discussions in these last several meetings, and we need to stay positive and focused. And on a positive note, the upcoming holiday, we have a 3-day weekend, which is kind of nice. But we don't need to lose sight of what that 3-day weekend is all about. Hillsborough is a great community, and they cherish a Memorial Day barbecue, picnic, parade. We used to have fireworks. I don't think the fireworks are done this year, but that's part of what this community was all about. The community getting together and remembering what happened, what Memorial Day is all about. And I hate to say this, I made my first trip to Arlington National Cemetery about 3 years ago, down there on a business trip, and walked the hallowed grounds. And
Sorry, what does this have to do with schools?
excuse me, I have the microphone. You had your chance to talk. Now let me talk. And walk the hallowed grounds to understand the sacrifices that our military have made for us, that we stay under this flag and be a country and be united as Americans. So let's remember the holiday, let's enjoy the holiday, but let's not forget the sacrifices of all those people that made for us to enjoy those freedoms. So everybody have a safe, happy Memorial Day weekend. God bless our veterans. Thank God they've been there to defend our country and continue to every day.
Is that everything that was drafted in Vietnam against their will?
Excuse me, I have the microphone and you could be quiet.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Would anyone else like to add comment? All right. Ms. Nurse?
You know, it's really disappointing to see that this is the end of what I thought was a very positive and productive meeting, I have to say. If you want to be respected, then fine. But everybody up here is working hard to try to do what is right for the community, for the kids, and it should be in a respectful manner. That is what we want our kids to be, right? We want them to be able to voice themselves in a respectful manner.
With all due
So,
respect to the board, Mr. Oliver lost the opportunity to do that in October.
Can you please cut the mic from the podium?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Oliver decided to go on the record and act as a CRT stunt. He lost the ability to do that.
Want to adjourn the
It is
meeting or have
very-
the officer remove the person?
I have some comments
Okay.
I want to update, and we still have a acting superintendent's report that we never got to because my bad, we skipped over it. So I'm going to make a couple comments and I'll pass it off to Dr. Feltry. So really quick, I just want to say I attended the ARIS fundraiser, the Harlem Wizards. That was fantastic. There was a large number of people attending. Everyone, it seems, had a great time. I want a special thank you to the teachers who did their best to defeat the Harlem Wizards. They did not win, unfortunately, but they put up a good fight. It was tied after 3, and just right at the end, they got them. So just thank you. It was a great fundraiser, great for the school, and I hope the district does more events like that that are really positive and really enjoyable. I also attended the NJSBA Delegate Assembly. Not too busy of an event. They spent a large portion of it talking about Dr. Feinsad's resignation as the head of the group and introducing the new leader for that group. And we voted on 2 resolutions. Other than that, it was great to attend my first conference and learn a lot. And it was a really enjoyable experience. And for those interested, since we're about 2 months out, July 25th is the petition deadline for filing to run for the Board of Ed. So just board and hope large community involvement for that. I will now pass it off to Dr. Feltry for the acting superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. So some good news here. We have, I'm thrilled to share that 2 of our Hillsborough High School seniors are National Merit Scholarship winners. The 2,500 Merit Scholars were chosen from a talent pool of more than 15,000 outstanding finalists in the 2022 National Merit Scholarship Program. National Merit $2,500 scholarship winners are the finalists in each state judged to have the strongest combination of accomplishments, skills, and potential for success in rigorous college studies. Congratulations to Dia J. Patel and Jonathan Yee. I would also like to commend 5 high school students who were awarded corporate-sponsored merit scholarships financed by approximately 136 corporations, company foundations, and other business organizations. Congratulations to Ridishri R. Badham for a National Merit Bristol-Myers Squibb Company scholarship, Derek X. Geng for a National Merit Bristol-Myers Squibb Company scholarship, Sene A. Senahira for a National Merit ADP Henry Taub Memorial Scholarship, Amy Wang for National Merit AbbVie Incorporated Scholarship, and Derek K. Wang for National Merit Johnson & Johnson Scholarship. On Saturday, May 14th, the Hillsborough High School Choir and Orchestra Ensembles, led by Choir Director Ashley Matthews and Orchestra Director Sarah Medeiros, performed during a Music in the Park festival at Six Flags Great Adventure. Each performance was evaluated by a panel of adjudicators, earning the following distinctions, with superior being the highest rank possible. Our orchestra was first place with a superior rating and best overall orchestra. The tour choir received a superior rating. The treble choir received first place with a superior rating. The mixed chorale received first place with a superior rating and best overall choir. Congratulations to our musicians and directors. And that concludes the acting superintendent's report.
Late on my behalf, apologies again.
It's okay. It's
If
okay.
we can get a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.